The rain was falling harder than anyone had seen in years, turning the quiet city into a maze of dark water. Streets vanished under rushing currents. Alarms echoed from every direction, and somewhere in the middle of the chaos, a single clue surfaced that would change the course of the entire night. A clue Rex found first. And from that moment on, the storm wasn't the real danger. Something far more calculated was waiting beneath the rising flood. The storm arrived without warning. One moment the sky was a quiet gray, and the next it split open with a roar that shook windows across the city. People rushed indoors, power lines flickered, and the streets began to shine with thin layers of water that grew deeper by the minute. The whole city felt uneasy, as if the storm carried not just rain, but something heavier, something hidden. As the water kept rising, the city's emergency calls doubled. Patrol cars rushed through the flooded streets, their lights cutting across the dark sky. In the middle of this chaos, Hudson and Rex were already on the move. They had been responding to a routine call about a missing worker from the industrial water channel. But nothing about the night felt routine. The storm made everything uncertain. Every sound was louder, every shadow thicker, and every step forward meant walking deeper into cold water that kept climbing up their boots. The channel was almost unrecognizable now. The once dry concrete slopes were turning into a roaring river. Trash bins, broken branches, and pieces of metal drifted past in fast currents. The wind carried a strange smell, harsh chemical, and out of place. Hudson noticed it right away, but Rex noticed it first. The dog's ears sharpened, his body stiffened, and he began pulling ahead with a force that only appeared when danger was close. They followed Rex along the edge of the channel, trying to stay steady as the water splashed against their legs. At first, it looked like nothing more than debris floating in the dark current, but as a flash of lightning lit the area, Hudson saw it clearly, a shape tangled in the metal fencing, heavy, still, and unmistakable. A body. Hudson waded closer, fighting against the current, while Rex stayed alert beside him. The victim was a man, maybe in his early 40s, with clothes soaked and torn. But something was wrong. Very wrong. The water around him was rushing, yet his body didn't drift naturally. It looked placed, like it had ended up there far too neatly for an accident. And then Hudson noticed the mark. A strange imprint on the man's wrist. Round and dark, almost like a burn. Rex leaned in closer, nose twitching at the same chemical smell from earlier. This wasn't a regular drowning. The man hadn't been trapped by the storm. He had been dead before the storm even became dangerous. And whoever put him here had planned to let the flood hide the crime. Lightning cracked again, and the wind grew stronger. Hudson knew the area wasn't safe, but he also knew the body was only the beginning. Storm or no storm, a killer was using the chaos as cover. And if this man had been left here as a message, then someone else might be next. Rex barked once, a sharp, urgent sound. Hudson followed his gaze down the channel. Something else was drifting toward them. At first it looked like more debris. Then it came closer, spinning slowly in the rising water. A second clue, a second warning. The night wasn't just dangerous because of the storm. The storm was being used. Someone wanted the city to drown in more than rain, and Hudson understood one thing clearly. This case wasn't about water. It was about what the water was hiding. The second object drifted closer, turning slowly in the murky water, until it bumped against the concrete wall. Hudson reached for it, careful not to lose his balance as the current pulled at his legs. When he lifted it from the water, he realized it wasn't debris at all. It was a metal access card, the kind used inside restricted facilities. The surface was scratched, the logo almost washed away. But the faint outline of the Water Management Division was still visible. It shouldn't have been in the channel. Not unless someone who worked there had dropped it, or been forced to drop it. Rex sniffed the card and instantly picked up a scent Hudson couldn't place. Whatever chemical smell Rex had detected before was stronger here. It wasn't just leaking from the water. It was tied to this card, to the body they had just found, and likely to whoever was behind this entire setup. Hudson slipped the card into a protective bag and looked down the long stretch of the channel again. If one body had been planted here, there could easily be more evidence the storm was trying to wash away. But the storm was getting worse. Water hammered down from the sky, rising quick enough to swallow footprints within seconds. Their radio crackled with warnings about power outages, blocked roads, and rising tides. Hudson didn't want to leave the scene, but staying longer could cost them their lives. The channel was turning into a river too strong to stand in for much longer. As they prepared to pull back, Rex suddenly turned his head and locked onto something upstream. His ears stiffened, tail straight, muscles tightening like a drawn bowstring. He didn't bark. Instead, he made a low, steady sound that meant one thing: Someone was there. Someone alive, watching, waiting, or trying to slip away unnoticed. Hudson followed Rex's line of sight. But the heavy rain blurred everything beyond a few meters. Still, the feeling of being watched crept in fast, crawling up the back of his neck. He knew Rex didn't react to shadows. The dog only reacted when there was a real presence, real danger. But the storm gave the stranger perfect cover. One blink, one shift of wind, and whoever had been there was gone. Swallowed by darkness and water, they returned to the body one last time before retreating. Hudson examined the strange mark again. It wasn't a burn after all. It looked like an imprint, a shape pressed onto the skin with purpose. A round seal-like pattern. Industrial. Maybe from a machine, maybe from a tool. Something that left a mark only someone familiar with water processing equipment would recognize. This wasn't the work of someone panicking in a storm. This was the work of someone who planned every detail long before the rain started. As Hudson stepped back, the water surged higher, swirling around the victim's legs like the city itself was trying to pull the truth under. If they waited any longer, the body might be swept entirely out of reach, and all answers with it. For a moment, Hudson stared at the rising water, imagining how easily a killer could use it to erase everything: fingerprints, footprints, evidence, and victims. The storm was not just a disaster, it was a perfect alibi. When they finally moved away from the channel, Rex paused at the edge and looked back, as if memorizing every sound and scent. The wind pushed against them, the rain stung like needles, and the distant sirens grew louder. It was clear the city was unraveling, piece by piece. But now Hudson knew something worse. The storm wasn't random. Someone had known it was coming. Someone had prepared for it. Someone had turned nature into a weapon. Back in the patrol vehicle, Hudson looked at the access card again. It was small, cold, and silent, yet it carried the weight of something far bigger, something connected to the dead man, the missing worker they were supposed to find, and the chemical smell Rex had followed. The storm was still rising, and so were the questions, and the answers were somewhere inside the water plant, hidden behind metal doors and restricted systems. The card in Hudson's hand wasn't just a clue, it was an invitation to the truth, and whatever truth waited there wasn't meant to be found. The drive to the water plant felt longer than usual. Even though Hudson and Rex were speeding through nearly empty streets, most people were locked inside their homes, watching the storm from behind windows, unaware that something far more dangerous than rain was drifting through their city. The windshield wipers fought the downpour, barely keeping the view clear, and every flash of lightning revealed streets that looked different from a few minutes earlier. The water wasn't slowing down, it was rising with a steady, unnatural determination. When they reached the plant, the building appeared half swallowed by darkness. Only a few emergency lights glowed near the entrance, flickering like they were struggling to stay alive. The large metal doors were usually guarded, but now they stood wide open, banging against the wall from the violent wind. Something was wrong. Even in a storm, protocol was strict. A facility controlling the city's water flow never left its doors open. Hudson stepped inside cautiously, Rex moving ahead with quiet confidence, nose close to the ground. The smell inside was stronger than anything they had encountered outside. A sour chemical stench clung to the air, coating the walls, the floors, and every breath they inhaled. This wasn't normal plant operations. Something had been released here, something powerful. As they moved deeper into the building, the sounds of rain faded and were replaced by the low hum of machines working overtime. Some screens flickered with red warnings: pressure rising, system unstable, manual lock override. It looked like the entire system had been tampered with. Floodgates, pumps, valves, anything controlling the city's water had been pushed to dangerous levels. Then they saw the first sign of human presence: a chair knocked over, papers scattered across the floor, a spilled cup of coffee still dripping from the table. It wasn't abandoned long ago. Whoever had been here left in a hurry, or was forced to leave. Hudson picked up the papers. Most were routine maintenance logs, but one sheet stood out half torn, smeared with water, yet readable enough to show something disturbing. A schedule for late-night pipeline testing that didn't match any approved plan. It included names of workers who were supposed to rotate between stations, and one of the names belonged to the dead man from the channel. Rex suddenly pulled away. Following a scent down a side hallway, Hudson followed quickly, stepping over wet footprints that didn't belong to either of them. They led to a maintenance room with its door slightly open. Inside, the lights flickered violently, casting shifting shadows across the machinery. And right in the center of the room lay another clue, one that made Hudson freeze. A second wrist mark. It wasn't on a body this time. It was on the floor. printed in smear of dark, oil-like substance, the same circular pattern as the dead man's wrist. Someone injured had pressed their arm there, struggling to stand up or escape. Someone who might still be somewhere inside the building, or somewhere drifting out in the storm, like the first victim. Hudson examined the mark closely. The edges were deep, almost burned into the floor. It meant the device or tool that caused it wasn't something simple. It was heated, heavy, and used with intention. Whatever left that mark wasn't meant for regular plant work. It was meant for control, pain, force. The room fell silent for a moment, except for the storm groaning outside. Hudson could almost feel the weight of the building pressing inward, as if the truth hidden within its walls was trying to hold itself in place. But then Rex gave a sharp bark, a discovery bark, not a warning. Hudson turned and saw what Rex was sensing. A trail leading upward. Footsteps, not washed away, not blurred, fresh. Someone was still inside the plant. Someone who knew they were being followed. Hudson felt his heartbeat steady, not from fear, but from certainty. The storm wasn't the villain. The storm was a distraction, a convenience, a curtain behind which real decisions were being made. The rising water outside was no accident. The rising pressure in the plant was no malfunction. Someone wanted this city to suffer. Someone wanted the evidence to disappear along with the bodies, and now, Hudson and Rex were inside the same building as that someone. The storm had given the killer confidence, but Rex had just found the trail that would take that confidence away. Rex followed the fresh footprints with sharp focus, leading Hudson through narrow hallways lit only by dying emergency lamps. Each step echoed against metal walls, mixing with the distant rumble of thunder outside. The deeper they moved into the plant, the more the building groaned under the pressure of rising water. Pipes strained, valves hissed, and every machine seemed to be running at a speed it wasn't built for. Something was pushing the entire system to its limit, and if it reached that limit, the plant wouldn't just fail, it would burst. The footprints ended at a heavy door with a warning sign, Central Control. Normally, it required an access card, but tonight, it sat slightly open, shaking from the vibration in the floor. Hudson pushed it gently. Inside, the room glowed with the cold blue of active screens. Dozens of monitors showed different parts of the city: flood levels, pipe pressure, water flow maps. Most of them flashed red alerts. Someone had hijacked the system and forced the city's water routes into chaos. Hudson scanned the room slowly, and that's when he noticed something strange. On one of the screens, a live feed from the lower tunnels showed a figure moving quickly, almost slipping in the rushing water. The person carried something large, something metallic. It took Hudson a few seconds to recognize it. A portable control module, a powerful tool, capable of overriding the plant's main controls from anywhere in the system. If used correctly, it could shut down pumps or open floodgates instantly. If used incorrectly, it could destroy entire sections of the city. But the person on the screen wasn't panicking. They knew exactly where to go. Rex pawed at the screen, recognizing the scent trail that matched the figure. Hudson felt the knot in his stomach tighten. This wasn't some random worker trying to escape. This was the person orchestrating the disaster. The one who left the first body in the channel. The one who marked the victims with that strange circular imprint. The one who knew how to turn the storm into a weapon. The video flickered, then disappeared, replaced by another red warning. Pressure critical. Hudson realized the mastermind was heading toward the oldest part of the plant. The underground vault where the original flood controls were built decades ago. Most workers didn't use it anymore, but the system was still connected, still functional, and still dangerous. Hudson and Rex raced back into the hallway, their footsteps splashing through rising water. The plant was changing fast. What had been puddles earlier were now inches deep. The sound of the storm outside blended with the roaring machinery inside, making it hard to tell where the danger was coming from. Rex pulled ahead, leading them toward a staircase descending into the lower levels. The air grew colder as they went down. The smell of chemicals thickened, and the walls vibrated like something inside them wanted out. At the bottom of the stairs, the ground was already flooded. Not enough to stop them, but enough to make every step harder. Rex suddenly stopped, ears lifted, head turning to the side. Hudson froze too. There was movement. A shadow slipping around a corner. Someone was close, very close. They followed the shadow into a long tunnel where rows of old machines lined the walls. Rusted pipes dripped steadily, each drop echoing like a ticking clock. The water here was swirling in strange patterns, unnatural patterns, as if controlled by something deeper underground. Then they found it a small maintenance locker. Door open, tools scattered, and a notebook left behind. Hudson picked it up carefully. Inside were sketches of the plant's layout, notes about pressure points, and a list of names. The dead man from the channel was listed. So was another worker still missing. And at the bottom, written in cramped, hurried letters, was a chilling phrase. The water will cover everything. Hudson felt the weight of those words. This wasn't a plan to destroy evidence. It was a statement, an intention, a belief that the water should erase the city itself. Rex nudged the far end of the tunnel. Hudson followed him to a metal grate where the water rushed with terrifying force. Something metallic glinted in the flow, a broken piece of equipment. The same shape as the imprint left on the victim's wrists. The tool used to brand them. The proof that this wasn't an accident but a ritual of control and fear. The moment Hudson reached for it, the entire tunnel shook violently. A deep, thunderous boom echoed from somewhere below, followed by the sound of rushing water exploding through unseen openings. Someone had triggered another override. The city didn't have much time left. Hudson tightened his grip on the notebook. Rex growled low, and together they pushed forward into the darkness, knowing the mastermind was only steps ahead and the flood was rising faster than ever.